Aggie game days are our favorite days. Get game day ready with the Stop by Locker 42. Aggie fans can find yourself a new t-shirt, lawn or short sleeve in just your size. You'll be looking good in a new Aggie hat. Pick one out from the dozens of designs on Locker 42's wall of hats. Aggie t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and jackets, always ready for game day. Shop either Locker 42 location, 1430 North Main next to Little Caesars, and the flagship store downtown at 36 South Main.
Cache Valley is growing. If you're new to the area or here for school, you should pick up a free copy of the Best of Northern Utah magazine. That's where you'll find the area's top businesses, voted on by our local community. Any service or product you might need, you'll find it in the Best of Northern Utah magazine. Pickup locations are throughout Cache Valley. For a location near you, visit bestofnorthernutah.com. Our local businesses are the heart of our community, so please support all of our business community by shopping local.
Best of Northern Utah.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to the show on a smoky, but at least we're enjoying some cooler weather as we're kicking off the garden show, talking about all things garden, lawn. And, you know, Mark, there's been a big change since we were here last Saturday and temperatures were approaching 100 degrees. Now we're looking at the low 80s.
I know.
20-degree difference.
Amazing. Yeah, it's like it's the temperatures that we've been waiting for all summer long. So this is like so nice to have some cooler temperatures. We've got some rain in the forecast
coming up this next week.
You know, and it's September, so there's some things we definitely want to get done in the garden before it cools down too much, before we get too much rain, because it can definitely affect our harvest and our crops. But man, we'll take that weather. That's wonderful. Lawns will start perking up. You'll see everybody's lawns greening up, and it's just a great time to be outside and enjoy the weather. And you notice that at 8 o'clock it's almost dark now, and things are changing, and it's like I wish it would stay light a little bit longer, but I think I'll take the trade off and have the little bit cooler temperatures.
The other morning I was up early and walking around the studios, just getting a breath of fresh air, and you could just smell it. Fall is just on the cusp.
It's right there, yeah.
It was down in the mid-40s, and so, it's definitely coming.
It's a great month for harvesting raspberries, so raspberries are going to be kicking in here. All the fall crops are going to be going great, so blackberries and raspberries that are ever-bearing, they're going to be amazing. Everybody's roses will start blooming again because it's starting to cool down, so you always get that really good flush of blossoms on the roses in fall, so great time to enjoy those. Zucchinis and cucumbers and corn and beans and everything is just coming out of the garden right now. So it's a excellent time to live in Cache Valley despite the smoke. I mean, think about it. Last year we had a month and a half of smoke.
Yeah.
This year if we have like 3 days of smoke,
a couple of days, let's hope.
It's like I can live with that too.
And I was thinking about it, trying to look at the positive. Look at what the smoke did for the colors.
Yeah. Oh, on the fall.
During the fall.
Yeah.
We had
absolutely.
some gorgeous colors through the fall. And
yeah.
so, maybe this smoke might help a little bit.
Yeah.
Still hoping it won't last too long.
Definitely cool things down too. So it's like, diffusing the sunlight a little bit more. We could use that cool, but don't love the smoke, but we can tolerate it for a couple days. But it is a great time to be outside, even despite the smoke. It's a great time to plant garlic. Fall bulbs are all starting to come in, so we're getting tulips and daffodils and hyacinths. We got a big shipment this week. We've got another shipment coming next week, so we'll have full selection by the middle part of next week on all of our fall bulbs. And I've got 5-6 more varieties of garlic coming as well too. So by next week, all the bulbs will be ready to go. Everybody's like starting to harvest peaches and nectarines. We harvested like a bushel of peaches off of our donut peach, and it's a white peach and it's flat on the top and the bottom, so it's shaped like Saturn, like a donut. Yeah. Oh, they're so good. Oh, they were so good. Planted my peas, so I got like a fall crop planted. Great time to get some lettuce and spinach and kale planted as well too. Seeing a lot of bugs, spiders and wasps are really starting to become aggressive, and boy, this is a perfect time to really focus on getting the lawn back in shape. I know a lot of people were very conservative on water this year, which is amazing that there were a lot of people willing to kind of sacrifice a little green this summer to help with the water situation. But now when it starts to cool down, this is when we can water once a week and really get the lawn back in shape for the next month or 6 weeks.
Get some fertilizer on it, and some humate, and
great
just
time
allow it to take
great
off.
time to humate, great time to put some fertilizer on, and absolutely the best time to control weeds. So cooler temperatures, it just does not get any better than September and early October to get rid of all the weeds that have popped up, cropped up throughout the summertime, and have a good, clean, fresh start for next year.
And we've had a debate in the past on the Garden Show of aerating and thatching.
Yeah.
Fall or spring.
Right.
And that's always kind of been a debate, is which is better, which is worse.
It is definitely better to aerate and power rake in the fall than in the spring. And that's because the grass is going into dormancy instead of coming out of dormancy. So in the springtime, where it's too wet, there's too much snow, if we let that kind of melt off, the grass really starts to recuperate after winter, and then we tear it apart with the aerator, or we shred it with the power rake. When it's coming out of dormancy, it's better to do it as it's going into dormancy, because it will have all winter to recover. And the best part of doing aeration in the fall is all the little plugs that are left all over the place that we call like dog poopies. The plugs, they decompose over the wintertime. So if you do an aeration in October, you won't notice that they're out there. Over the winter, they'll break down, and in the spring, they won't even be there anymore.
They're gone.
Then they're just gone. Yeah. But it's always better to aerate in the fall. It opens up the soil, allows water, allows fertilizer, allows air to get down into the soil, loosens the soil up, allows it to expand horizontally instead of vertically. Even our customers who have bad earthworm problems, where the earthworms are pushing the soil up. As the earthworms go through, they naturally aerate your soil, so they are very beneficial for your grass and for your soil and for your garden and for your flower beds. But they will make these little mounds, and it's because the soil has gotten compacted and there's nowhere for the soil to expand except up. Yeah, and so you get these little mounds of soil, and sometimes it's bad enough you walk on it, and it's so uneven you feel like you're going to like fall over walking on it. Well, if you aerate, now there's all these holes where the soil can actually expand horizontally instead of vertically, and so you don't get the little mounds from the earthworms. You get this nice aerated, beautiful soil, and it helps with earthworm problems as well too. So anytime from now until the ground freezes in November, great time to aerate
and thatch.
Really good time to thatch. Best time of year to fertilize. Ultimate, perfect time to spray for weeds. Really good time to go after weeds. But, don't forget, at Anderson's, we've got our cash sale still going on right now. So we have reorganized all the plants, all the trees, all the shrubs. And so they're very easy to go through and find what you're looking for. Everything is on sale at 40% off. But if you pay with cash, you get an extra 10% off. So it makes it 50% off. We just got a whole bunch of new perennials in. So we've got some lavender, we got some catmint, we got all the fall bloomers, like mums and asters. There's some really great blooming plants. Those are all half price as well too. So it's a really great time to come in, take advantage of the sale that's going on, pay with cash, and you get that extra discount. And of course, we are starting to transition the store over to the holidays.
Yeah.
So we won't say the C word, but we are transitioning the store over to the holidays. So you may have to put your blinders on if you don't want to look at the holiday stuff. But this is a great story. I actually had somebody in the other day, and they were shopping, and they saw all the holiday decor. Especially the trees that we have there. And she came to one of my employees. She said, it's really early to put those Christmas trees out, they're going to die before you can actually put them up in your house. And the employee looked at her and said, I don't think they're going to die. I think they'll be just fine. And she's like, well, yeah, but it's like so early. It's like those poor trees, they're going to lose all their needles. And she's like, well, those are artificial trees,
And she was like, no
she's
way.
Like, no, they look so real. I was like, I can't believe it. It's like, I don't think they're going to die. I think they'll be just fine.
Just fine. Nice.
So that's how realistic our artificial trees are, is that our very concerned, thoughtful, kind customers were telling us that it was too early to put them out because they were going to die.
That's great.
So we are working on the holiday stuff. Believe it or not, we've sold holiday lights already.
Already people getting on.
This week, I sold a bunch of lights for people to install on their homes, and I've got a couple of people who are like wrapping their trees already to just to get it done while the weather's really nice, because you can do it now and just leave it, and then they won't turn them on until November, whatever. But
well, and you've mentioned that a lot of those LED lights you can change colors, and so
it's amazing. Yeah,
perfect for Halloween. Actually,
we just leave ours up all the time, and I like change the colors for red, white, and blue for the summertime. For the Independence Day, we had green and white, various shades of green for St. Patrick's Day. We did Easter colors. We did Valentine's Day colors. Coming up for fall, we will definitely do Halloween colors. So we'll do like purple and orange and probably gold in there. And then I've got kind of a nice combination I like to do for Thanksgiving and fall. It's kind of a very fall colored look. And then we can change them up for Christmas as well too. And we just leave those holiday lights up all the time. Yeah, it's awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's a great way to go.
So the fall cash sale is continuing for up to 50%
up to
off
50%
when
off,
you pay with cash.
And the bulbs look great. So the bulbs just came in. Lots of tulips, lots of daffodils, lots of hyacinths to look at, crocus and allium, and just all the fun bulbs. And we're doing a kind of it's not really a fundraiser. It's more of a special event out at the hospital. And it is not next weekend, but it's the weekend after, and they're planting tulips out there, and it's a really cool event that they're doing. We're going to plant about 1,000 bulbs out there at the hospital to kind of make the cancer center look a little bit nicer in the springtime.
Oh, wow.
So we're planting all pink tulips in there, so it should be a lot of fun. And bulbs, they're so hard to mess up. You just can't ruin them as long as you dig your hole deep enough, get your bulbs down in there, a little fertilizer with them, cover them up, and water them, and let Mother Nature take the rest.
Just do the rest.
Oh,
after
yeah,
that,
yeah. So easy. And we I have already talked to our good friend Hank Stoofbergen from Stoofbergen Bulbs, and he's going to be here in October. So we'll be talking bulbs again in October. So he's planning on being here, I think, the second week of October. So it'll be perfect.
It's always a fun show when he comes in.
Yeah, for sure. I learn something new every time he's on the show about bulbs or about amaryllis or whatever it is. And he works hand in hand with the Cornell University with their ag department, and so they're always doing research on something. And he always comes and shares it with us, and it's just like so enlightening, something fun to learn every time. Yeah, every time.
But for those that want to get a jump on planting bulbs, great time to do it right now.
Yeah.
And like you said, really super easy.
Yeah,
we throw in just a little fertilizer with them, and you don't have to bury them too deep.
No.
In some cases, I know that's one thing that Hank's often talked about is just a light covering of dirt. He also mentioned in the past taking, if you have some grass clippings or leaves or other mulch type of material, lay that on.
And put that over the top as well, too. So last year we had planted some new trees, and we'd adjusted some landscape in one area, and I wanted to put bulbs in. And one thing that we had planned on doing was just laying the bulbs out on the surface of the soil, and then building 4 inches of soil, 6 inches of soil over the top of them. So we wouldn't even have to dig holes for them, but just lay the bulbs out and then put the soil over the top of them, insulate them, water them really good, and then they just come up like crazy.
Take off.
Yeah, that's how difficult it is. Personally, I like to wait till about the middle of October to do my planting. That way all my flowers are kind of done for the year, and I've trimmed down all the perennials, so it gives you time to kind of clean up. But if you want to get your bulbs, now's the time to get them, because some varieties will just disappear really quickly. So you get the best selection to get your bulbs right now. But when it comes to planting, I really prefer to wait until we get that hard frost and like the flowers have died back and the perennials are all ready to clean up, and it just makes it a lot easier to plant. So mid-October, perfect time for planting. Mid-September, go buy your bulbs.
Get them now.
Get them now. Yeah, get them now, because sometimes by mid to late October, we're out. They're
already gone.
Yeah, they're gone. There'll be some varieties will still be left, but some of the best varieties are already gone. So that's a good time to do that. And garlic, you can plant the garlic right now. So usually we're harvesting garlic the end of July, first part of August, and then by the 1st of September, perfect time for planting the garlic. And we've got hard neck varieties, we've got soft neck varieties, we've got lots of purple skinned varieties as well too. Just a lot of different flavors. I mean, they all taste like garlic, but there are variations in how hot they are, or if they're more mild, or if they're a little spicy, or if they keep a little bit better. So there's a lot of different options that are out there, and I have probably 4 or 5 favorites that are like my go-tos. I like the German Red, I like Spanish Roja, I like Music, Susan Delafield. Last year I planted Purple Glazer, and that was amazing. That was really, really good.
Comes up as a purple bulb? Or?
So the wrapper on the cloves is purple, and so that kind of papery wrap on the garlic is purple, and we just break those apart, plant 1 clove every 6 inches or so, and we plant them about 4 inches deep, and then the stems come up and they're green, and we don't let them go to flower. So if they start to flower, we cut those flower stems off. But then when you harvest them in July or early August and let them dry, the skins on the garlic are purple. And the German Red's kind of a purpley red. There's a new variety we tried last year. It's called Chesnock Red. It's definitely got more of a red color to it instead of the purple. But, we really liked the Purple Glazer. It was amazing in all the recipes we used it with last year.
So time
really
to get
good.
your garlic, get that planted, grab your bulbs before they quickly disappear.
Before they disappear.
And then we need to talk harvesting, because, there's just so much right now harvesting in the garden. I know a number of people were calling in last week asking about, is it too soon to pick, summer squashes, spaghetti squash and things like that.
Yep.
I was looking at mine again the other night, and you want to pick it. There's that temptation. I'll just pick it now, but keep it, let it stay in the garden as long as you can.
I'll tell you, this is the best part of this time of year. Got off early a little bit yesterday from work, stopped at the grocery store, picked up just some chicken breasts, and that was it. That's all I had to buy at the grocery store. Went home, we stir-fried those, did teriyaki chicken strips with it, and then we had onions out of the garden. We had zucchinis out of the garden. We had broccoli out of the garden, and I didn't have peas, but we did have some beans as well too. We made this awesome stir fry with everything right out of the garden. Yeah, and so the only thing we bought was like the chicken. Yeah, I did our teriyaki chicken with stir fry, and of course we didn't grow our own rice, but
that's true.
Had plenty of rice at home. I didn't have to buy that, but I mean that's the best stop at the grocery store. It's like, I'll just buy chicken. That's all I need. I know a lot of people have chickens in their yards, but we don't always eat the chickens.
Yeah, let them just lay the eggs. Speaking of harvesting, one thing we're going to be doing for the first time, harvesting our honey. We started a beehive this year, and we're going to be harvesting this afternoon.
This weekend, I was like, I got to get in there and see how full the supers are, because I haven't had a chance the last couple of weeks. But we got our honey supers on just at the right time, and I'm anticipating them being full. Bees have been super, super active, so I'm excited to see how much we've got. We spun 3 or 4 gallons last year off of our hives, and it was plenty of honey. It's like you can't eat it all. We end up giving a lot of it away. But the year before we had 8 gallons. And with 8 gallons, it's like, okay, Christmas presents for everybody, And it's like homegrown Christmas presents. Here's a pint of honey and a zucchini, that we grew out of our garden, banana squash or butternut squash. But we have so many squash that have set fruit this year. The squashes have gone crazy. So I've got tons of butternut. I've got some kabocha squash, which is a Asian type squash, really tasty. It's a very dry squash though, so it's not one that I bake, because it's it's so dry. It does better if you pressure cook it or if you deep fry it.
Okay.
But the flavor is really, really great on it, and it keeps really well, too. So we've got some sweet meat. I've got a couple different kinds of butternuts. We grew some more of the honey babies, which is like a smaller butternut, but they're really, really sweet. I think it's my new favorite squash. Love the honey babies. They're so sweet and good. And a bunch of pumpkins. Lots and lots of pumpkins. So we'll let those continue to grow outside. Some of the vines are starting to die down. We had a little bit of squash bug damage, but I was able to get on top of the powdery mildew early enough that I got all the mildew under control. So the cucumbers are going crazy, but the squashes, we'll just leave them out there in the garden, let them mature, and then if it looks like it's going to freeze, maybe we'll bring them inside if it's going to be a hard frost. If it's a lighter frost, 28, 29 or above, then it just kind of kills the vines, and that's a perfect time to harvest the squash.
I'm gonna grab them.
Yeah, but if it's going to get colder than that, if you get down into the mid to low 20s, you got to harvest your squash. Yeah. It's going to freeze them. And so we cut them so that there's 2 or 3 inches of stem left on the squash. We will gently put them into a wheelbarrow or a cart or whatever, and then take them to a warm, dry location where the sun doesn't shine right on them. And so I've got a barn where we can kind of cure all those squashes and the onions as well too, and works great. But be gentle with them. Don't bruise them. Don't scrape them. Don't bump them, because the more intact that outer skin is on your squashes and on your onions as well too, the more intact that is, the better they're going to keep. And so when we harvest our onions, which is right now, those we want to get in before it starts raining too much in September, because they will start to deteriorate. They'll start to grow again. So now is the weekend to get your onions up. Dig your onions, let them dry, get those brought in before it starts to rain a lot, because they're going to start to grow again. Potatoes, probably the same thing. We want to dig the potatoes up. But with the squash and with the onions, the less damage there is to the exterior, the longer they're going to keep. And so when we harvest our onions and our squash, we gather them up very gently, get them to their storage location, and they're going to stay 3 to 4 to maybe even 5 weeks in that cooler, warm, dry, no direct sunlight area. And the ones that kind of get beat up or scratched or bumped, we will use those first, because those will deteriorate faster, whether it's an onion or whether it's a squash. If the exterior skin has been broken or scratched or bumped or damaged in any way, those are the ones that are not going to keep as long. And so we actually segregate our onions and our squashes, not by variety, but by how long we think they're going to last. So the ones that look perfect, they're going to last much longer than the ones that are kind of beat up a little bit. So we'll eat the beaten up ones first. Yeah, and then we store all the rest of them. So when I store my onions, I don't care if they're red, white, or blue, green. It's like there's no racism in the onion family at the Andersons' house, and so they just all kind of go together. But the ones that have a little bit of exterior damage, those go in a different, and when they're done curing, those go in the bag that means I'm going to eat you first. Yeah, you get eaten first, because if the ones that have been damaged are in with the other onions, they'll decompose faster. So they're going to break down. They're going to release ethylene gas, and it's going to cause the other ones to ripen and decompose faster. So the same thing goes with the squashes too. So the harder the exterior skin is, the longer they're going to keep. So the ones that get beat up when you're gathering them up, eat those first. Yeah. The good ones go into storage, last longer that way. But now's the time to get your onions and your potatoes up. Squashes, we can leave them out there longer.
And make sure as you store them, this is one of the mistakes we made first years ago, is put them in a bucket and then sealed that bucket.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden opened it up a month later and it's just full of mildew.
Yep.
So you got to make sure you get them some air, give them plenty of circulation.
Yep. So we put them in the kind of curing location where it's just warm and dry and no sunlight. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, when they develop that hard outer skin, whether it's the onions or the squashes, then we will take them and store them in a cool, dry location. Temperature-wise, between 38 and 48 is perfect, and you want good air circulation around those. So put them on a crate, put them on a pallet or something so that the air can really circulate around those, and that's when they're going to keep the best. Onions go in an onion sack, like a mesh bag that has good air flow that goes through it, and we just hang them up on a nail as well too. And the potatoes go in a burlap sack. They like a little bit more humidity, so a little bit more moisture for the potatoes is okay, but they can all stay together. But don't store your fruits with your vegetables because they will decompose faster. Yeah. And we talked about that a couple weeks ago, I think. So
coming up right after the break, as we come into the bottom of the hour, we want to talk about the cash sale. It's continuing on, and we need to talk insects because, like you mentioned,
bugs,
squash bugs are still out there. A lot of insects, and so we're answering your garden and lawn questions, not taking any phone calls for today because of some assignments and commitments that have us out of the studio. But we'll be back coming up in just a minute here on The Garden Guide on KVNU. I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News Update this hour. It's brought to you by Whole Tree Care. A 34-year-old Logan man has confessed to trying to kidnap a woman last March near Logan High School. Carlos Cisneros Diaz accepted a plea deal this week while continuing to claim that the crime was an accident. He was arrested back in March after a woman called police reporting that he had tried to pull her into his car as she was walking near 150 West, 300 South. After she fought back, he drove away in a gray Honda Civic and was arrested the next day. The victim, a woman in her 30s, was punched in the face during the brief struggle, but was otherwise unharmed. During this week's court hearing, defense attorney Shannon Demler says Cisneros Diaz was so drunk at the time the crime occurred he doesn't remember what happened. Now he is being held in jail without bail and could face up to 15 years in prison when sentenced October 19th. And you may have noticed that flags are flying at half-staff. That's due to an order from Utah Governor Spencer Cox, who authorized the lowering of the flag of the United States and the state flag of Utah to be at the half-staff position in honor of former Queen Elizabeth II, who died earlier this week. She was Britain's longest-reigning monarch and passed away on Thursday at the age of 96. Now, according to Governor Cox's order, flags will remain at half-staff until sunset on the day of Elizabeth's internment. Private citizens and businesses are encouraged to participate in the flag lowering as well. Well, looking at smoky skies expected to continue as it is having an impact on temperatures, as we're going to only stay in the low 80s and overnight temperatures down around the mid-40s. Now, we do have a small chance we could see some showers coming into the forecast, but hopefully skies will start to clear towards the end of the weekend, and that will bring in the possibility of some rain Monday and into Tuesday. I'm Will Feelright for KVNU News.
From ABC Sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd Ent. Francis Tiafoe's run is over. The 24-year-old from Maryland was hoping to become the first American man to reach the U.S. Open final in 16 years, but he lost to Carlos Alcaraz in the semifinals in a 4-hour 5-set thriller. Alcaraz will face Norway's Casper Ruud in the final Sunday at 4 Eastern on ESPN. Baseball, the Mets look to keep their half-game NL East lead over the Braves intact in Miami, but in the bottom of the 8th.
0-1 is in the air, well hit right center. Nimmo on the run. At the wall. Goodbye!
On WINZ, Marlins win at 6-3, and the Braves looking to take advantage. Travis d'Arnaud in the 5th.
d'Arnaud lines one to right center field and deep. On the run, Haniger. He's going to look up. That ball is out of here.
On 6:80 a.m., Braves beat the Mariners 6-4. Now Atlanta alone in first place for the first time this season. This is ABC Sport.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Hi, this is Shawnee Arby with Cache Valley Bank. We love supporting local events, and we are proud to support the Logan City Top of Utah Marathon coming to downtown Logan on September 17th. Cache Valley Bank invites everyone to meet us in downtown Logan to run, cheer, or volunteer at the Logan City Marathon on September 17th. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Meet me downtown. Meet me in downtown Logan.
Monday edition, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show. We'll be breaking down everything from our awesome trip in Austin, plus the continued battle as we inch closer to the midterms. What is the latest in the Senate, and where do we think the battlegrounds are going to be? And Buck.
Talking about the economy, some numbers coming out soon on jobs, on inflation. What do people think about how Biden's doing? That's coming up on Clay and Buck.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
I'm Elizabeth Smart. Sexual exploitation and violence are unimaginable crimes that far too many people in our communities experience. In the U.S. alone, a person is sexually assaulted every 68 seconds. Every 9 minutes, that victim is a child. It's time these numbers change. Learn more about how you can join me in the fight against child sexual exploitation at malouffoundation.org.
Hearing loss is a growing health issue among young adults and older Americans. Now is the time to preserve your hearing, limiting exposure to loud noises, using ear protection when attending sports events or music concerts, and following the 60-60 rule, limiting the use of earbud headphones to 60 minutes at a time and at 60% of maximum volume. A public service message from the Hearing Loss Association of America, High Health Innovations, and this station.
From gardening to landscaping, The Garden Guide with Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Welcome back to the Garden Guide on this smoky but still nice Saturday as we're enjoying the cooler temperatures compared to a week ago when we were headed to close to 100 degrees. Oh, it was a hot week. We just kind of had to suffer through it.
High 70s, low 80s. It should be like that all summer.
I went into the garden Saturday afternoon after we finished the show, and for an hour I was out there just trying to pick a few beans and harvest. I came in and I probably sweat a gallon.
Oh, yeah.
It was just so hot.
Yep, you can lose some weight that way. But what's interesting is with the cooler temperatures and, a little less water goes a lot farther when the temperatures aren't as high. And so all of a sudden, everybody's flowers are going to start looking amazing. They're going to really start putting out more flowers. September is a great time for roses. The roses just kind of feel that cooler temperature, and all of a sudden they just start setting more flower buds. Well, it's not just the roses. It's your petunias, and it's your geraniums, and it's your marigolds. And so this is a really great time to just get another application of fertilizer out there to really kick your plants into bloom.
To gear.
Yeah, because if we don't get a hard frost until the 10th of October, you got a month of great color that you can enjoy. So don't hesitate to fertilize flowers right now. No more fertilizer on the vegetables, though. So like tomato plants, we stopped fertilizing weeks ago, and we're just trying to get those suckers to ripen up and be ready to consume. But flowers, especially petunias and any of the crawling plants and roses are blooming now, and some of the perennials, this is a really good time to fertilize those to encourage some more blooming, because we got another month of beautiful flowers that we can enjoy. So good time to do that, but also a really good time to fertilize lawn. It's rejuvenate the lawn time.
It was our lawn. We had that really wet August, and then all of a sudden we hit the last week and a half, and the lawn was like, wait a second. What happened?
Everybody's stressed. So the first week of August, we got 2 inches of rain, and then the week after that, we got some more, and then it just stopped for the last 2 weeks. And so all of a sudden, everybody's lawns are stressing a little bit again.
Starting to get a little brown.
That 2 inches of rain in August really brought everybody's lawns out of stress mode. And so cooler temperatures now is going to do the same thing, especially if we get some nice rain next week as well. And so let's keep our fingers crossed for a couple good rainstorms. And if not, if you're only watering once a week in 70-degree temperatures is going to be perfect. Your lawn's going to just perk right back up. But it's a great time to try and rejuvenate the lawn. So if your lawn's been struggling this summer because you had to cut back on water, now's a prime time for doing a humate application and either a fertilizer or a product like Back to Green. So the Back to Green is not only great to use during the summertime to try and conserve water, but it's really going to help your grass recover without making it grow really fast. So if you prefer not to mow like crazy for the next month and a half, use the Back to Green because it's got that soil penetrant in there. And so you apply that, water it fully, it's going to absorb the water down into the soil, and it's going to make your grass recover a lot faster. And the Humate will do the same thing too, but we use the two together, and it's amazing what a difference it makes. But the Back to Green has so much iron in there, it's really going to green your lawn up without making it grow out of control, but it's going to make your water so much more effective. So if you're only watering once a week, it's going to act as if you're watering twice or 3 times a week because of the cooler temperatures and because of the way it holds the moisture there. So what it's going to do is all of a sudden your grass is going to just perk up, it's going to green up, it's not going to grow too fast, and a lot of that strength is going to go to the root system instead of to the top, and we're going to get that grass ready for winter. And what a lot of people don't realize is, we recommend you fertilize, 4 or 5 times a year, but the most important fertilization out of those 4 or 5. So if somebody comes into the store and they're like, hey, I'm kind of short on money this year, economy's not so great, inflation's up,
fertilizer prices
more expensive,
skyrocketed.
I can only afford to put on one application. Which one should I do? Right now. Yeah, right now. But between now and Thanksgiving is the most important time to fertilize your lawn because it will help it recover and rejuvenate itself from the hot, dry summer, get it ready for winter, and then it's going to have all winter to feed on that fertilizer and prepare for next year. And then next year, the snow's going to melt and your lawn's going to look as if it had never had a hot, stressful, dry, plethora of 100-degree temperatures, in 2022.
I always joke that around March and April, my yard looks just as good as everybody else's. That's my favorite time of the year.
Yeah. It really is. So now's the time to focus on that. And we're not only going to just fertilize the lawn and get it looking really good, but now's the time to go after the weeds as well too, because as the temperatures cool down, the weeds realize that it is fall and that it's time to store some energy for next year. And so what the weeds do is they take all that strength that they've developed in all those leaves that they produced all summer, and they're going to take all that strength and they're going to run it down the root system, and they're going to store it over for next year. This is what dandelions do. This is what morning glory does. This is what, like all the really hard to kill invasive weeds, they all are going to store that energy for fall and winter, so they're prepared for it. But a good fertilization and a good watering just makes those plants feel like they're invincible. Mm-hmm. And when you apply a weed killer right after that, when they're really healthy and they're well watered and they're well fed, they think that the weed killer is more fertilizer. And so they just absorb it in and they run it down into the root system to store it for next year. And all of a sudden the weeds are all dead because that weed killer's gotten all the way down in the root system and it's killed the whole weed out. And then by next spring, instead of having a yard full of weeds, you have no weeds at all because you killed them all off in the fall. So from now until about mid to late October is absolutely the ultimate, perfect, best time of year to kill weeds. Yeah. But it's also a wonderful time to fertilize at the same time.
And fertilize your flowering plants, your roses.
Yeah.
Get a little fertilizer on those, but hold off on the tomatoes and the vegetables like we were saying.
And usually in September we do our fall truckload sale on fertilizers. And so probably in the next week or 10 days or so, we'll start our fertilizer sale. And so it'll be a really good time to come in and pick up fertilizers. To be honest, I hadn't even thought about it until just now. Right now. It's like,
oh yeah,
we're going to be doing the truckload sale here pretty soon. So I can't even say, hey, this is what's going to be on sale because I haven't even decided yet. Yeah.
Got there yet.
Got to look and see what we've got. I know I've got some really great, I've got a really great price on 16-16-8 with 3% iron in there, so I'll have a really great price on that. And then all of our Fertilome products will be on sale. So weed-free zones usually on sale. We'll have fertilizer with iron from Fertilome. We'll have the Green Maker on sale, and we will have our Fertilome Winterizer on sale too. So it'll be the best prices for fertilizer for the year.
Yeah. This will be fertilizer's done this year.
This will be the best price on fertilizer. And fertilizers have kind of stabilized, so I don't think you'll see the prices really drop like precipitously, and it won't be like a really big drop in price, but I think next year we'll see some leveling off of the prices, and they'll kind of come back to a more normal price range. Yeah, they just really went up kind of crazy this year, so that's how it works.
We were mentioning that you don't want to fertilize anything in the garden, although we're getting to that point as you start to pull out corn plants, and it's a good time to start putting some mulch and things into the garden with some humate so that you can start prepping those gardens for next spring.
For next year. Yep.
But one question I'm sure you're getting a lot right now is tomatoes. A lot of people have got tomatoes on, they're green, and people are saying, okay, how do I get these to ripen up?
Yeah, and it is starting to cool down. So if you didn't notice this morning, it was like, what?
Mid-40s.
45, I was going to say. I think it was about 45 when I got up this morning. And so you can feel the cooler temperatures at night, even though it's been hot during the day. And so we've got to trap that heat that we're getting during the day. If we're starting to just get into the high 70s, low 80s, we want to trap that heat. And so we'll use a frost cloth, or we'll use just a seed cloth to put over the tomato plants so that during the day it'll generate some heat, but then it will trap and hold that heat at night. So it's the nighttime temperatures that get the plants to ripen up a lot faster. So to really get your tomatoes to ripen up so you can pick them and they taste really good, what we do is we will trim the plants back. So we're going to trim some of that excess foliage off. So we're going to trim some of those leaves back.
Basically where you don't have any fruit.
Exactly. Okay. And so you can get the sunlight to get in there to ripen the fruit up. So we need to allow the sun to get into the plants better. We're going to start stressing the plants a little bit by watering a little bit less frequently. So instead of watering every 3 or 4 days, let's push it and go every 5 to 6 days and let the plants just kind of wilt a little bit at the end of the day. And then, if they kind of perk up as soon as the sun goes down, then they're probably good for another day. But when they wilt, and then as soon as the sun goes down, they don't perk back up, that's when you want to water them. Yeah. Okay. And so we don't want them to die, but we want to let them stress a little bit so that we can force those plants to ripen up a little bit faster. And then covering them at night makes a huge, huge difference. So if you can get the frost cloth on those plants, even though it's not going to freeze, your tomatoes will ripen up so much faster because they're going to retain that heat at night, and you're going to see a big difference in your fruit production.
Okay. Yeah. So frost cloth, trim it back, and then trim back on the watering.
Stop watering. Yeah, stop watering. So not completely, but let them stress a little bit in between waterings. And then we have a couple products that actually really help too. Calcium makes a big difference. So calcium will help the plants ripen up. And so a dose of either the Yield Booster or CalMag from Bush Doctor, any of those high calcium liquid fertilizers would be really great to get the plants to also ripen up as well too. So the calcium will really help with the ripening process. So those are 4 good suggestions to get those plants to ripen up. And they've been slow to produce this year. Tomatoes have been 2 or 3 weeks behind schedule just because it was a cold, wet year. And then I don't know if you saw the article this week in KSL, but a lot of the big tomato growers, they've been dealing with diseases, lots and lots of diseases. And that is because we had to plant when it was cold and wet in May. So we had really cold, wet weather. I mean, they've been talking drought all year, except
when it came time to
Cache
plant.
Valley is not part of Utah, apparently, because it's like drought over the entire state, except Cache Valley. We had a cold, wet March. We had a cold, wet April. We had a cold, wet May, and it stayed cold and wet till about Flag Day. So it was about the 14th of June. And so if you planted tomatoes during that time period, the soil was cold, the soil was wet, and it was just like prime conditions for a lot of those diseases to spread. And so if you weren't really treating your plants a lot for disease control, all of a sudden you're watching half your plants just kick the bucket.
Die off.
Yeah. And I had 2 plants that died this year, almost 3. One we've been able to salvage. One really looks like it probably should be tossed in the garbage. But the last 5 years, I haven't had 1 plant that we've lost. So this is a much harder year. Fatality rate this year on the plants. And it's all weather driven because of the cold, wet weather to start off with and then the hot, dry afterwards. So we'll get those tomatoes to ripen up.
Now, one other question when it comes to ripening. For example, like some of your hardier apples, your what I call more of the frost apples, fall apples,
right?
Pears, some of those fruits that we're wanting to still ripen up a little bit before the first frost comes.
Yeah.
Any would some sort of calcium fertilizer help there, or is it better just to continue watering a little bit?
Better to let them just do their thing. And, my peaches, there were a couple times where I let them go a little bit too long without watering, and so the fruit kind of shriveled just a little bit. So continue to water with some of those later producing fruits. So make sure they get that good once a week or once every 10 days, good deep soaking, so they can pick up the moisture that they need as the fruit is ripening and getting ready to be picked. And so with your apples and your pears, Bartlett pears, we're probably going to pick here in the next 10 days or so, because they're kind of getting close. They do better if they ripen off the tree. If you let them ripen on the tree, then they get overly ripe. But with the apples, we'll leave those as long as possible. And again, if we're going to have a light frost, it won't bother the apples at all. If we're going to have a hard frost, sometimes you want to get those picked in. I mean, last year we didn't have our frost until about the 15th of October, I think it was. And so then we had our really hard frost. It was into the mid to low 20s. And it's just like, oh, I'm picking the stuff because I was afraid it was going to freeze the fruit. It was just cold enough. And so it's nice to leave them on long enough so they can mature and they can really ripen properly. But if it's going to get too cold, we don't want to see any damage on the fruit as well, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So continue watering. Now, when it comes to gardening, we were talking earlier about insects, and we're still seeing a lot of squash bugs in the gardens.
Squash bugs.
Grasshoppers still everywhere.
Spiders, wasps have been really bad. And so we had to take out a nest at my house the other day because I was out working in the yard, and my wife's like, oh, there's a wasp nest. I was like, yeah, I've been kind of watching for those. I haven't really seen too many. And she's like, right over there underneath the eaves of the house. And I looked, and it's like, sure enough, it was in a spot where I couldn't see it because it was kind of behind the tree. And that was a pretty good-sized nest.
They were hiding from you.
Yeah. Fortunately, we've got the spray that foams. And so when you spray it, you can be 20 feet away from the nest, but it will spray this nice stream, and when it hits the nest, it foams up, and then it like kind of covers the nest. And so what we will usually do is wait until the evening when the sun's gone down, but it's still light outside, because that's when all the wasps and hornets go back home for the night. And then we'll spray with that spray, and you don't have to get very close. You don't have to worry about them coming after you. But when you spray and it hits that nest, it just kind of foams up and just covers the whole nest, and everybody that's inside, it kills them almost instantly.
It's on contact. One of my favorite things to do.
Because they fly about 2 feet and they just like plummet to the ground. Yeah.
And they twitch for a minute. And it's so satisfying.
I'll tell you, we had an older truck that we have used as a snowplow for literally 40 years, 42 years.
Wow.
And so it's been a great truck. It's a 1980, and it's been awesome. But I haven't used it much the last couple of years because I haven't had to plow snow too much. We haven't had too many big storms, and so it's just kind of sat. And I'll just go out there and I'll start it up every month just to make sure it's running and everything's doing good. And so I went out there this summer to start it up. I opened the door up and I hopped in the truck, and it was like I'd been shocked, like I touched an electrical outlet, just could feel it course up the side of my body. It's like, what the heck is going on? I jump out of the truck, and there was a wasp nest inside the door, but it wasn't in the door. It was in between the door and the frame. And so I opened that up, and they just kind of freaked out, and I got stung like 3 or 4 times in one spot, and it literally felt like I'd been electrocuted. And I got my spray out, and they paid the price. Yeah, they paid the ultimate price for stinging me, but it was not very nice.
No, those things are just ruthless. We actually put up a trap for the first time this year because around our hummingbird feeders.
Oh yeah, they were going crazy,
swarming.
Yeah, and I've got lots of people calling and saying, "Hey, the wasps and the hornets are just attacking my peaches like crazy," because there's a little bit of shot hole fungus this year, and so we're seeing the peaches crack a little bit. When they crack, then all the nice nectar. The nectar comes out, and then the wasps and the hornets are all over that. So then people think they're stinging the fruit, and they usually don't sting the fruit too much. It's usually something else has happened, and then all of a sudden the sweet juices of the fruit's coming out, and then they're all over it. And so we're seeing a lot of that as well too, and wasps in the raspberries. So they've been very aggressive, but there are some really great insecticides to get those under control that you can use right up to the day before you harvest. So one of the new versions of 7. The active ingredient is called zeta-cypermethrin, and it's safe to use on a lot of fruits and vegetables right up to about 24 hours before you harvest. And so on raspberries, it's 24 hours before you harvest. On peaches and plums and cherries, it's 3 days before you harvest. On a lot of vegetables, it's 24 hours before you harvest. So it has a really short limitation from when you spray to when you can harvest. And so we've been recommending that quite a bit. The permethrin also has a very short limitation of when you can spray and when you can harvest. And they do a great job on wasps and hornets. Like the high yield indoor-outdoor would be excellent, very comparable to the 7 product. And it gives you that short interval from when you spray to when you harvest. Safe to just rinse it off and then eat the vegetables or eat the fruits, but still effective enough that it's going to knock down wasps and hornets and spiders and box elder bugs, and both of those work great on squash bugs. So very effective insecticides, but also low toxicity for people, very effective on the bugs, and short interval from when you spray to when you can harvest.
You know, we noticed some squash bugs in our pumpkins, and our pumpkins had really taken off. And then we started to see those squash bugs start to migrate into the other squashes. And it's not too late to be fighting them because they're still out there, even if you sprayed once.
All it takes is a couple days. You see one, and a couple days later, all of a sudden your plant's like on the ground. And they're done at that point. So, a lot of bugs active still, but we can still get those under control. Going to see a lot of powdery mildew showing up with the cooler temperatures and with the rains coming. So it's a good time to watch for mildew as well, too.
Okay. We've got about 5 minutes left, and we want to talk about plants and shrubs because this is a great time to still plant. And right now, with the cash sale, you can save a lot of money.
Absolutely. So at Anderson's right now, we still have a good selection of trees, flowering, fruit trees, shrubs, evergreens, vines, and a lot of perennials that are on sale. They're 40% off right now with our clearance sale going. And if you pay with cash, you will get an extra 10%. So then they'll be 50% off. So it's a great time to save some money. You'll still be accumulating Mad Money for our next Mad Money sale that's coming up. And it's a perfect time for getting out there and planting. So cooler temperatures. I'm going to be planting a new Japanese maple, a new magnolia that's called Felix. That's a hardier magnolia. The flowers on this tree, 12 inches across.
Huge. Really?
Huge
that big?
Flowers. Yeah, huge flowers. So it's hardy for our area. It's a zone 5. It's about a 20-foot magnolia, really big leaves to it. It's got a gorgeous glossy leaf, and the flowers are 12 inches across, and they're dark burgundy when they come out. Burgundy. And so I can hardly wait to plant it. And then I thought my dogwood was dead. Like this spring, I totally thought my flowering dogwood was dead. We've been kind of babying that sucker for 15 years, and it's been awesome, and it's a zone 6, and it shouldn't be growing here, and it's always been great. I thought it was dead this year, and so I brought a new one home to plant, and it has come out of it. It's come out of it. So it has recovered. I had to prune about 40% of the tree off, but it has come out of it. So I'm so excited, but I have another tree to plant. So this month I'm planting my gorgeous Felix magnolia, my new dogwood, and a new red cutleaf weeping Japanese maple. Perfect time to plant. So between now and the end of October, great time to plant trees, great time to plant shrubs, cooler temperatures. The key is to make sure and dig your holes extra wide. So we're going to dig it 2 or 3 times as wide as the pot that it's in, but about the same depth. Amend the soil. The soil that comes out of the hole, we're going to amend that. We're going to backfill with it. We're going to water with kangaroo roots and put some mic on it as well too. And those trees and shrubs will go crazy, and they'll be like perfectly established before winter comes in. And next year they'll just take off like crazy.
And that's one thing that you've mentioned, and we've talked about in the past a few times, is that if you follow those steps, that you guarantee your trees and
your
shrubs.
Success just goes up so much. So there's always a possibility that there's some damage to the roots or there's a problem. So when you take it out of the pot, it's going to happen. But if you follow our instructions and you follow those step by step, you'll have 90 to 95% success rate.
Yeah.
Just won't lose very many. It's been it's been so many years since we've had really trouble planting any trees or shrubs that I can't even remember when the last time was that we had a tree or shrub that just didn't make it when we planted it. We planted in some pretty harsh conditions, south-facing slope, really rocky, hard to access, and right in the middle of summer, like planting in the middle of July, and every single one of them took. It's just, if you follow those steps, you'll be so much more successful. But if you don't follow those steps, you might have some problems. Yeah. So,
hey.
Yeah.
Well, we have just a minute left, and so let's just remind everybody the cash sale will continue on through this weekend.
Yep. Pretty much until everything's gone, the cash sale will keep going. So no matter what discount we put on the plants, like say we decide to go up to 50% off, if you pay with cash, you'll get an extra 10%. So you'd always get that extra 10% on top of that. And we still have a great selection of plants to go. Bulbs are in, garlic are here, so it's a great time to plant bulbs and garlic. And it doesn't get any better than right now to plant new grass, to overseed an existing lawn if you want to get a more drought-tolerant, more disease-resistant, more insect-resistant grass into your lawn. We should probably have a whole show just on grass.
On grasses.
Yeah, I'll see if Doug can maybe come on next week and we'll talk grasses. And a great time to get after weeds in your lawn. Weed-free zone, weed-free zone, weed-free zone. That's all I can say. There's no better time to control weeds, and the weed-free zone will take out everything without damaging your grass.
And like we were talking about, if you haven't fertilized your lawn, okay, we forgive you.
Yep.
Because if you just do it right now, this is the best time before we head into winter.
Doesn't get any better.
Okay.
Doesn't get any better.
Well, we appreciate all of the questions, Mark, and appreciate all of your answers with my questions. And we will have more of those coming up next week here on The Garden Guide. You're on KVNU.
As our world changes, we're with you. News Talk KVNU Logan, 102 FM, 610